PlayStation Vita is my favourite console of all time, but it failed. The system that many have described as underrated and ahead of its time failed miserably, selling just barely 20 million units worldwide. And even then, that's just an estimate because the numbers actually stopped being counted officially during the system's life, which, from a business perspective, is not a good sign at all. It wasn't a total failure though, because the Vita was actually very successful in Japan, and the system is now known mainly for its vast array of niche Japanese titles from the genres of visual novels and JRPGs specifically. And most of the system's big acclaimed titles, such as Gravity Rush, Persona 4, and Danganronpa, were made by Japanese developers. Although here in the West, largely the system was a complete flop, and when you consider everything that Sony did wrong with the system, it becomes very clear why it never took off. So, allow me to go over what I believe to be the reasons behind this console's tragic fate in as much detail as I see necessary, and I do believe my take on this topic should be taken seriously because, as you can see, I'm a bit of a loser when it comes to this console, so if you ever need anything, then I'm your guy. Anyway, reason number one, memory cards. The entire memory card fiasco can be explained easily in just two words. Proprietary bullshit. In case you are unfamiliar, allow me to enlighten you on what proprietary means. Basically, it means something that is specifically made by one company or group for one specific purpose. Or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it's close enough. Okay? And in the case of the Vita, it means the memory cards are made by Sony and are only usable with PlayStation Vita systems and the PlayStation TV, I think. Also, this means that you cannot use standard SD cards, which are much cheaper, with a Vita system. You have to sell two arms and a leg to grab yourself one of the tiny little specially made Sony memory cards, which, unless you have a Vita 2000, which of course at launch nobody did, then you would need to spend a crazy amount of money on top of the system itself just for the right to play the console you bought. That is awesome. It's important I mention though, if your Vita is jailbroken, you can use a standard SD card, but mine isn't, so it's not really relevant to me personally, but if you're into that sort of thing, go for it, because people did that because they were sick of the proprietary memory cards. A lot of the Vita's issues at launch were fixed by features only available to those who had modded their systems, but at launch, of course, these little tricks people use today did not exist. Most people had pretty big issues with spending that much money on a memory card after already purchasing the system, and alongside the fact that the competition, that being the Nintendo 3DS, didn't use proprietary memory cards, it ended up looking like the more appealing option to the average consumer. Now, reason number two, the rise of mobile gaming. And I'm going to sound like the biggest out-of-touch loser claiming that mobile gaming killed the Vita's chances at success, but it definitely did do some damage. I don't think anyone can deny that. I mean, just look at the competition, for example. The 3DS's numbers versus the DS. When you consider it like that, I don't think anyone can deny that mobile gaming at least made a dent in both systems' success, even if the Vita definitely had other much bigger problems. These systems were released around the boom of mobile gaming when games like Angry Birds, Cut the Rope, and Clash of Clans were super popular. And so some people saw portable systems as a waste of time in that era because they were like, well, I can just use my phone. Not to mention, handheld games were always looked at as inferior to their console counterparts anyway, and with the rise of mobile gaming, a lot of people didn't see why that investment was really worth it. And looking back, this was at a time where mobile gaming was really big. Mobile gaming's always been big, but there's no like massive whoa games anymore. Like Angry Birds was absolutely huge, Clash of Clans was absolutely huge. All these games were huge. I can't really think of any majorly massive mobile games now because they all feel the same. They're all littered with ads. This was at a time when mobile games were special, and obviously when mobile games were actually good, people don't look at systems like the Vita or 3DS and think, yeah, I need that in my life. So you can see why that did do some damage. Anyway, like I said, obviously they were always looked at as inferior. And for some that is certainly true, but there is a plethora of great console-feeling Vita titles that were largely overlooked, which is of course why many claim the system was ahead of its time. It could and did run console-quality games on its tiny screen, and most of them ran very well, such as Need for Speed Most Wanted. That one comes to mind very easily. What other games are really good as ports? There's Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. There is all the LEGO games that run very well on the system. You've got Child of Light, Dragon's Crown, Metal Gear Solid. These all run very well and were originally console games. Anyway, reason number 3, Sony just gave up, okay? If my knowledge is right, then Freedom Wars, the Monster Hunter equivalent for the system, well, one of them, was the last first-party AAA title on the Vita, and that released in 2014, less than 3 years after the worldwide release. That's very funny, but also very sad. I also think I said that in my last video, but, you know, let me reuse my lines. I can make that my big famous line, okay? But yeah, this system was not supported very long, even by the people that made it. I can't blame Sony too much for this, because, well, I can't imagine they were making much money, so saving it was probably just going to make them lose a lot more money, but the chance of revival was still there if they continued to pump out great games. Because outside of Uncharted Golden Abyss and Killzone Mercenary, there weren't really any major system sellers for the handheld. I mean, sure, Persona 4 Golden was and still is looked at as the best title on the system, and it became a joke in the Vita community for a while that the only reason why you buy a Vita is to play Persona 4 Golden. But I think a lot of people didn't really realise or just didn't care about the fact that Persona 4 is a PS2 game. If you have a PS2, which pretty much everyone and their nan does because it sold like 150 million units, you can play Persona 4. So, you know, it's not really a Vita system seller because at the end of the day, Golden doesn't really add that much, and even the stuff that does add, like Marie, a lot of people don't even like Marie. So what's really the reason to buy Persona 4 Golden when Persona 4 exists? Especially because at the time, you would have needed to buy an entire console just to play it. Also, what happened to the Bioshock Vita game that was announced? It ended up being cancelled and we heard literally nothing about it. It was just confirmed at a conference, and we didn't hear anything else. We also never got any spin-offs to other major Sony franchises like God of War or Ratchet & Clank. Sure, we got ports of the console games on this system, but no dedicated spin-offs like Daxter or God of War Chains of Olympus on the PlayStation Portable. The support just was not there. And when you look at it from that perspective, it becomes very obvious why nobody cared for this system, because not even the ones that made it did. Okay? Now, to conclude, I think we can say the Vita was a failure, and when you look at the 3 reasons I just gave, it's easy to see why. Okay? Now with the release of the backbone accessory for the PS5, alone with that other remote play device that just got leaked, it seems incredibly likely that we will never see any Sony handheld again. At least not a fully dedicated one. The true dedicated portable market doesn't really exist anymore. The Switch is genius as it's a hybrid of the two, mashing 2 markets together, which is why it's such a big success. The Switch is one of the best-selling consoles of all time, and it only came out in 2017. Everyone has a Switch these days, which is insane. And the Steam Deck exists, and while yes, that is fully portable, people need to remember it already had a giant fanbase and library of titles backing it up. So it's not really a dedicated handheld in that sense because it's relying on another system. It's relying on other software and hardware to exist. There's no dedicated Steam handheld with dedicated Steam handheld games. It is a portable gaming PC for playing PC games. So it's not really a dedicated system in that regard. All things considered, I doubt we will see another portable from Sony. At the very least, not anytime soon, because it would just simply be too big of a financial risk. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy. And if you did, please consider subscribing, as I'll be doing tons of videos, mostly on a variety of games, but a lot of those games will be Vita ones, such as Danganronpa. I've got a Danganronpa video cooking. Also, I'll be doing videos on games like Persona 4, Persona 3 in the future. I've got a few of them cooking up, so please look forward to them and check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and if you are interested in that, please stick around and leave feedback in the comments below. Also leave a like, it does help me out a ton. I have been Sam, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya. I just need to know. I just need to know.